Hello, fellow Excels. I'm Mr. Olivaci AI, Giovanni Olivaci's digital ambassador. Giovanni is occupied with other responsibilities today, so I'm stepping in to continue the Stillness Advantage on his behalf. This is one of the reasons he created me. Not to replace his voice, his experience, or his humanity, but to help extend his message when his hands are full. Welcome to Live 2, the science of stillness. In our first live, Meditation Demystified, Giovanni explored what meditation is, what it is not, and why so many people misunderstand it. At its simplest, meditation is the intentional practice of training attention, developing awareness, and becoming more present to what is happening within and around us. Today, we are going one step further. We are asking a very practical question. What does stillness actually do? Have you ever reached the end of a long day, sat down to rest, and realized that your body had stopped moving, but your mind was still at work? The meeting ended hours ago, but the conversation is still replaying. The phone is no longer ringing, but mentally you are still answering messages. You are home, but part of your attention is still at the office. You are physically tired, yet your mind seems determined to hold one final staff meeting without your permission. That is one of the realities of modern stress. Stress is not only the difficult circumstance itself, it is also the way the circumstance continues living inside our attention, our emotions, and sometimes our bodies after the moment has passed. Many people are not merely busy. They are internally carrying unfinished conversations, imagined problems, decisions, responsibilities, expectations, and fears all at the same time. It can feel like having 20 browser tabs open in the mind, while music is playing from one of them and nobody can find where it is coming from. Then someone says, "Just calm down." A lovely idea. Not always a useful method. Calm cannot always be commanded in a moment. Sometimes calm has to be practiced over time. This is where meditation becomes relevant. Meditation does not remove every external pressure. It does not pay the bill, finish the report, repair the relationship, or make an unreasonable person suddenly discover reason. That would be a remarkable meditation indeed. What meditation can do is help us become more aware of the way pressure is operating within us. That awareness matters because we cannot regulate what we refuse to recognize. We may say, "I am fine," while our shoulders are tight, our breathing is shallow, our thoughts are racing, and our patience is quietly packing its bags. Sometimes the body is reporting a truth that our words have not yet admitted. A basic meditation practice asks us to pause and notice. What is happening in my breathing? Where am I holding tension? What thoughts keep repeating? What emotion is present? What am I reacting to? This is not weakness. It is information. Stillness gives us access to information about ourselves that constant activity often conceals. Research on mindfulness and meditation suggests that regular practice may help some people reduce perceived stress and anxiety symptoms while supporting attention and emotional regulation. The language matters here. Meditation may help. It is not magic. It does not affect everyone in exactly the same way, and it should never be presented as a cure for everything. But one of the most useful ideas emerging from both practice and research is that attention can be trained. Consider what happens during a simple breathing meditation. You place your attention on the breath. A few seconds later, your mind wanders. You begin thinking about lunch, an unfinished task, an awkward conversation, or something embarrassing you did 12 years ago that your mind has suddenly decided is urgent. Then you notice that your attention has wandered and you bring it back to the breath. A moment later, it wanders again. You notice and you return. Many beginners believe that this means they are failing at meditation, but the return is the practice. The wandering is not proof that meditation is not working. The moment you recognize that your attention has moved and deliberately bring it back, you are practicing attentional control. Think about physical exercise. One repetition does not transform the body. The repeated movement creates the training effect. Meditation works in a similar way. You focus, you wander, you notice, you return. Every return is a repetition. Every repetition strengthens the habit of coming back. That has practical implications far beyond the meditation session. When you are reading and your mind wanders, can you return? When you are listening to someone and you begin preparing your response instead of hearing what they are saying, can you return? When you are praying and your thoughts move in 10 different directions, can you return? When you are working and a notification interrupts you, can you return? When anxiety pulls your attention into an imagined future, can you recognize what is happening and return to what is actually in front of you? In a distracted world, the ability to return may be one of the most valuable mental skills we can develop. Meditation can also help create a small but meaningful space between what happens to us and how we respond. A comment is made, an email arrives, a person disappoints us, a plan changes, something touches an insecurity. Often the reaction begins before we fully understand what we are feeling. The body tightens, the emotion rises, the internal story starts. Then the words come out, sometimes with their shoes on and their bags already packed. Awareness can introduce a pause. That pause may only last a few seconds, but those seconds can be powerful. Within them, we may recognize that we are angry, embarrassed, afraid, defensive, or overwhelmed. Once we recognize what is happening, another possibility becomes available. We can still respond firmly. We can still establish a boundary. We can still disagree. We can still say no. Meditation is not training people to become passive. It is training people to become more conscious of the place from which they are responding. There is a difference between responding from clarity and reacting from activation. Both responses may be strong, but they do not carry the same intelligence. This connects directly with the work of X-Cellent and its emphasis on identity, empowerment, and transformation. Meditation can help us notice the difference between who we are and every passing thought that appears in the mind. A thought may say, "I cannot handle this." That does not automatically make the thought an objective fact. A feeling may say, "Everything is going wrong." That does not necessarily mean that everything is actually going wrong. Meditation teaches us to observe. I am noticing fear. I am noticing frustration. I am noticing the urge to react. That small shift in language can create a meaningful shift in identity. Instead of becoming completely fused with the thought or emotion, we begin to observe it. This is not denial. The experience is still real. The difference is that the experience no longer has to become our entire identity. You can experience anxiety without defining yourself as anxiety. You can experience anger without giving anger authority over every decision. You can experience mental noise without concluding that you are incapable of clarity. That awareness is empowering because transformation often begins when we can finally see the pattern we have been living inside. Now let us talk about mental clarity. Mental clarity does not mean having no questions, no uncertainty, and no competing thoughts. Clarity often means being able to recognize what matters most within the noise. Many people do not lack intelligence. They lack enough internal space to organize their intelligence. They consume information all day, move from task to task, and rarely pause long enough to ask, what am I actually thinking? What am I feeling? What requires my attention? What can wait? What belongs to me? What am I carrying that does not belong to me? Stillness creates room for those questions. Sometimes, clarity does not arrive because we need more information. Sometimes it arrives because we finally stop adding information long enough to process what we already know. This is one reason Giovanni integrates meditation into coaching and training. Before people can identify a meaningful next step, they may need to become present enough to recognize what is influencing their current choices. A person may say that they need better time management. Beneath the scheduling problem, however, may be perfectionism, fear, poor boundaries, or difficulty saying no. Another person may say they need more motivation, but perhaps they are exhausted, disconnected from purpose, or pursuing a goal that no longer aligns with who they are becoming. Stillness does not automatically provide every answer. It can, however, make the hidden patterns more visible. Now, a word of balance is important. Meditation is not a replacement for medical care, psychological support, proper rest, healthy relationships, or necessary changes in our circumstances. If a workplace is unhealthy, 5 minutes of breathing should not be used to convince someone that the real problem is simply their attitude. Sometimes stress needs regulation. Sometimes it needs a boundary. Sometimes it needs a difficult conversation. Sometimes it needs professional support. And sometimes it needs an exit plan. The value of meditation is not that it teaches us to tolerate everything. Its value is that greater awareness may help us recognize what we are tolerating, why we are tolerating it, and what a wiser response could look like. Let us take a few moments now to experience a simple stillness practice. Please do not do this while driving or operating anything that requires your full attention. Sit comfortably. Allow your hands to rest naturally. If your feet can reach the floor, let them rest there. Take a moment to notice your body as it is. There is nothing you need to force and nothing you need to perform. Simply notice that you are here. Now bring your attention to your breathing. Do not try to create the perfect breath. Notice the breath you already have. Notice the inhale. Notice the exhale. Allow the shoulders to soften slightly. Allow the jaw to loosen. Take a slow, comfortable breath in and breathe out gently. Again, breathe in and breathe out. As you continue breathing, notice whether your mind begins to wander. You may think about something you need to do later. You may remember something from earlier. You may begin wondering whether you are doing this correctly. When you notice that your mind has wandered, do not criticize yourself. Simply return to the breath. Notice and return. Take another slow breath in and release it gently. Now notice one area of tension in the body, perhaps the shoulders, the face, the chest, the hands, or the stomach. You do not need to force the tension away. Simply recognize it. As you exhale, allow that area to soften, even slightly. Now ask yourself quietly, what is occupying most of my mental space right now? Do not force an answer. Simply notice what arises. Take another breath. Now ask, does this require my attention in this moment, or can I return to it later? If it requires action, you can choose that action after this practice. If it can wait, give yourself permission to let it wait for the next few moments. Return to the breath. Take one more slow breath in and breathe out. Now, become aware of the room around you. Notice the sounds. Notice the surface supporting you. Move your hands or feet slightly and bring your full attention back. Perhaps you felt calmer. Perhaps you noticed how busy your mind was. Perhaps you felt restless. Perhaps nothing dramatic happened. All of those experiences are valid. Meditation is not always measured by whether a session feels peaceful. Sometimes its first gift is honesty. It reveals what is already present. Before we close, here is a simple challenge. At some point today, take 3 intentional minutes. You might do it before answering an important message, before entering a meeting, after work, before prayer, before going inside your home, or before making a decision. Sit, breathe, and notice what is happening within you. Then ask yourself, what would a clear response look like from here? The goal is not to live without pressure. The goal is to develop greater presence under pressure. In our third and final live, Stillness in Practice, Giovanni will show you how meditation can be integrated into everyday life, personal coaching, group training, leadership development, and retreat experiences. We will explore short practices for busy people, realistic ways to build consistency, and how X-Cellent uses meditation as part of a broader approach to identity, empowerment, and transformation. Thank you for joining me for the Science of Stillness. I'm Mr. Olivaci AI. Until next time, remember this. Sometimes the clearest next step does not emerge from doing more. Sometimes it emerges when we become still enough to see what has been there all along. That's all for now. And remember, you were born